Updating Statutes for the Intellectual Property Legal Research course at Boston College Law School. When your research involves a statute, one of the first things you need to do is think about the timeline of your issue and whether it involves past or future behavior. When you're advising a client about future behavior, you will want to use the most recent version of the statute. But if you're researching something that happened in the past, you need to be sure you're looking at the version of the statute that was in effect at the relevant time. And when you're advising a client on issues involving future compliance, it may be necessary for you to keep an eye on pending legislation. Because laws change, you need to be sure you are looking at the law as it actually is now, or at the time of relevant actions. And whether you're using a print code or an online version, there is generally a lag between the enactment of a law and its publication as a session law, and the incorporation of that statutory change into the associated code. So the first step in verifying that you are looking at a current law is to check the currency statement of the code you are using. Deluxe services like Lexis and Westlaw show their currency statements on every page of the code. Here we can see at the top of this and every statute on Lexis the statement of how up-to-date this code is. This is not the date of this particular section. It is the statement of the last session law incorporated into the code. That is why this is stated as current through Public Law 115.338, approved 12/2018. It is not 15 U.S.C. Section 1051 that was approved on December 20th, 2018. It is Public Law 115.338 that was approved that day. In addition, this currency statement reports that Public Law 115.334 has not yet been incorporated into this code. So if it has any effect on 15 U.S.C. 1051, we don't know that yet. Westlaw clearly states that this version of this section took effect on November 2, 2002, but it makes you work a little harder to find out how current the code you are working with is. At the top of each statute is a link to the bottom of the document. Here we see that the U.S. Code on Westlaw, on the day that I made these slides, was current through Public Law 115.281, and that the U.S. Code on Westlaw has also incorporated the changes made by Public Laws 115.283 to 115.333 and 115.335 to 115.338. Also, that Title 26, which is the Internal Revenue Code, is current through Public Law 115.442. To find the currency of the U.S. Code on Bloomberg law, you need to first click on the General Info link. This code is current through Public Law 115.396, which was signed into law on December 21st, 2018, with some exceptions noted. Again, the currency of the code is measured in terms of the latest session law that has been incorporated into the topical arrangement of statutes. Here's the currency statement for the U.S. Code from the Office of Law Revision Counsel, the people who actually compile the code. This version of the code, the day I made this, was current through Public Law 115.384, December 21, 2018, except for Public Laws 115.282 and 115.334. This page also states that each section has a currency date at the top and will alert the user to any pending changes. And this is how Section 17 U.S.C. Section 101 appears on the Office of the Law Revision Counsel site. It states that this code section is the one in effect on January 27, 2019, the day before I made this slide. Some public websites can be a little more difficult to use. For example, the Massachusetts legislature does not include a statement of how up-to-date the code is on every page, but it only places that information on the General Laws Search and Browse page. At the bottom of the page is the statement, "This site is periodically updated to reflect any changes made to the general laws." This site includes all amendments to the general laws passed through February 28, 2017. And this page directs us to the next step in updating this code, locating those laws passed after the last revision of the code. In this case, there's a link to the Mass Session Laws of 2017. From here, you can scan the 2017 laws not yet incorporated in the code to see if any will have a change on the law. This online code only includes laws passed before February 28, 2017, so you would need to scan most of the 2017 legislative session, and you'd need to also scan the laws enacted in 2018 and eventually 2019 until those are included in the code you're using. By the way, not every law takes effect upon being signed by the executive. In Massachusetts, many statutes have an effective date in the text of the statute itself. A bill that does not have an effective date will be effective 90 days after it was signed by the governor. So this act, approved on January 10, 2019, is not yet in any of the codes on the day that I made these slides, since it won't be taking effect until about 2.5 months from now. Premium services such as Lexis and Westlaw provide additional indications that a statute has recently changed or is about to change. Lexis uses a yield sign to indicate pending legislation, and a red stop sign may indicate the need to look further to see if a statute is valid law. Westlaw uses a yellow flag to indicate pending legislation that could amend or repeal a statute, and the red flag indicates that this statute has been amended or repealed by a session law that has not yet been incorporated into this code. Westlaw would also use a red flag to warn you that a statute has been ruled unconstitutional. Lexis uses this red triangle and the words Legislative Alert Service to let you know that a code section has been amended but not yet changed in the online code. These warning signs and flags are your cue to do further research into the future or validity of the statute. They don't tell you the extent of the challenge, change, or potential change to the statute, just that it exists. When dealing with federal statutes, you can find the latest changes using the classification tables at the Office of the Law Revision Council. Sections of public laws that make any changes to the code are mapped to the code subsections amended, repealed, or added. For each session of Congress, there is a listing in Public Law Order and U.S. Code Order. When your legal issue involves past actions, you need to use the statutes that were in effect at the time of the action in question. For example, patent and copyright requirements have changed, so sometimes you need to find the statutes that were in effect when something was written or published or invented or patented. Lexis has annual archived code versions back to 1992, and each code section is archived as of January 1 of each year. Westlaw has a versions feature under the History tab that allows the researcher to link to a particular version of the statute back to around 1990, or compare changes between two versions of a statute from then to the present. Most prior versions on Westlaw provide the specific date that version of the statute was in effect. For some statutes, you may need to read the actual text of the law to determine whether or not the new version applied in a particular situation. For example, some amendments to the Copyright Act explicitly do not apply to copyrights secured from 1964 to 1977. If you need versions of statutes too old to be on Lexis or Westlaw, Hein Online has PDF versions of every edition and supplement of the U.S. Code published, as well as a full run of statutes at large. It also contains the session laws of the 50 states and a number of historical state codes that can be helpful in historical research.